Hi, this is Abigail. I'm your host of Nothing Left Unsaid, and welcome back. Thanks so much for joining us. Well, it is almost the end of July as I'm filming this episode. We are almost through the summer. I can't believe how quickly summer has gone by this year, but I'm super curious what everyone has been doing to survive the heat, survive the summer. I know that one person in particular is feeling the heat this summer, and that is Donald Trump. For the last couple of weeks, headlines regarding Trump and Jeffrey Epstein have been not dominating news coverage. Trump famously, promised to all of his followers that he was going to release the Epstein files and expose sex trafficking and pedophilia in our government. And now that it's actually come time and they have the files, he is refusing to. Big shocker. It was just reported that why would he be doing this? It turns out that Trump's name is all over the Epstein files. This is news to probably no one if you've paid any attention at all to what a fucking creep Trump is. But it's really funny that he's tried to deny deny his associations with Epstein. There's countless photos of them together. There's also this weird birthday letter that Trump wrote to Epstein where he alludes to just how special their friendship is and how the secrecy that they share between them is just really like bonding. And it's very weird, and no wonder he wouldn't want the files released. Anyway, it has been very amusing to watch MAGA bend over backwards in order to make excuses for why Trump would not release these files. So love watching the rupturing in that segment of Trump's base, and I'm sure there's more to come. I'm sure this will be in the news for days to come, weeks to come probably. I'm also really excited to see that Zohran Mamdani won the New York City ranked choice voting Democratic primary. And he's such an exciting candidate. It's really refreshing, especially right now, to see a politician be so courageous and unapologetic about his support for policies that actually will improve people's lives. He ran on making rent affordable, ensuring that people that live in New York City can actually afford to live there and stay there. And he did it with charisma, with personality. I think really what we need is more hot people running on good policy and making that the focus of their campaign. Like, we need more Zohrans. Zohran is of Indian heritage. He's born in Uganda. He's Muslim. And it's just really fantastic to see the support that he's garnered in New York City and on social media. Now to talk about what is new in Phoenix, Arizona. One of my favorite Thai restaurants in the Valley, Glai Bon, is going to be opening up two new concepts in Tempe next year. I'm really excited about that. I love Glai Bon. It's a small space, but the vibe is immaculate and the food is wonderful. It's not super overpriced by any means. It can be difficult to get in, but super worth it. And I'm really excited to see what their new spaces look like and how the food is. There is also a new place that I've been wanting to check out called Love Bite Dumpling. So if you've been there, let me know how it is. The branding is super cute, and I'm a sucker for dumplings at any time of day. So hoping to check that out soon. Now, one thing that is absolutely popping off on the internet this week, I'm sure everybody's seen it right now or by now, the Coldplay affair scandal, super hilarious. If you don't know, where have you been? But if you don't know, the fan cam or whatever turned to the crowd and zeroed in on this couple standing together. And as soon as they realized that they were being filmed, they ducked and hid and tried to cover their faces. And as it turned out, the man, both of them work at some corporation, something to do with space, I think. Not important, but he's the CEO and she, I think, is HR. And he's married, so this became a whole thing. The memes are really funny. I've seen a bunch of videos where at other concerts or like sports games, they're turning the cameras on and people are running and hiding and pretending that they're the couple. So that's really funny. Good reminder to join your union and don't ever trust HR. That's what I'm taking from that. Speaking of music, this summer, we've seen a lot of musicians use their platform to speak up for Palestine, to speak against the genocide, against what the what the Israeli government is doing to the Palestinian people. And it's been really, really wonderful to see. I personally was at a couple of shows over the summer, festivals in which some of the bigger artists used their platform to highlight that. And really, really want to see more of that. Actually, in England at Glastonbury Music Festival, the artist Bob Vylan similarly called out the atrocities that are happening in Gaza with our tax dollars, and has actually had his visa to tour in the U.S. revoked by the Trump administration. So they're continuing to crack down on political speech and target folks who are speaking out against the genocide going on there. Finally, one other music update from me is that I just saw the Marias in Tucson. If you're not familiar, the Maria herself is from Puerto Rico. She is a wonderful artist. I've been listening to her for many years now. It was really exciting to get to go see her show. It was kind of last minute that I ended up going, but I got to go with one of my good friends, and it was kind of a full circle moment because the Marias were like my breakup band a few years ago, and I got to go with my friend who's now going through a breakup. So it just was really nice to share that moment with her and get to see them perform. They're fantastic performers. It was such an amazing show, maybe like one of top 5 that I've been to. So if you ever get a chance to see them, make sure to go check them out. If you're a fan of the Marias, let me know in the comments below what your favorite song is. So we are used to hearing about how the right uses online platforms to target young men, but today we're going to be talking about the anti-feminist feminist grift, aka how tradwives are repackaging control as empowerment for women. From Charlie Kirk's Get a Husband rant to women churning butter in cottagecore dresses, we are unpacking the tradwife pipeline and the political agenda behind it. So what is the tradwife pipeline? It is cultural content that lures women in. It is often not super blatant. They use coded language, specific hashtags, and embedded in that is white nationalist, white supremacist language under the guise of mainstream aesthetic and female empowerment. Now, there's a few ways that these tradwife influencers will often develop this content. A lot of it's very aesthetic. A lot of it is centered around dating and home life and how to, get in touch with your inner divine feminine. Another prevalent part as of late has been the wellness to extremism pipeline. Influencers like Alex Clark, they promote clean living, and that quickly goes from clean living to being anti-vax, anti-contraception, religious indoctrination. Similarly, like the Make America Healthy Again movement that RFK Jr. is now pushing as the Health and Human Services Secretary. Similarly, raw milk supplements goes to religious purity culture very, very quickly. They don't start off bringing people and young women in by saying, we want you to find a husband and stay home, but they pepper in, this aesthetic content, this homemaking, like how to make everything from scratch. They use aesthetic escapism such as aprons, farm life, and sourdough, all to bring people into wanting to go back to a simpler time, essentially, or a simpler time on its face. So just a quick overview of some of the key influencers in the tradwife space. You've likely seen at least one of these on your social media, but we've got classically Abby. She markets herself as promoting modesty and motherhood and rejecting modern womanhood. We've got Nara Smith. She does the ASMR videos, and all of her videos are her making homemade things from scratch, but like on steroids. Like not only is she making the thing from scratch, but she's making every single ingredient in there from scratch because, she has so much time as a stay-at-home mom who is an influencer who runs an Instagram account. And her videos are super interesting because at the same time that she's doing that, she's wearing these like luxury, high fashion, outrageous outfits, and the juxtaposition with her, chopping her carrots or whatever the fuck, and is just wild because what a clear example of like, this is fake, this is not achievable, what you're selling doesn't exist. She's also a Mormon, so there's an element of like Mormon traditional There's also Estee Williams. She talks a lot about dating, and she's very anti-college. She gives a lot of advice on how to find a masculine man. I don't think she's promoting polyamory. And biblical submission. Then we've got Hannah Nealman, aka Ballerina Farm. She is a Juilliard trained dancer who quit dancing to have 8 babies. Her Instagram content is very popular. It looks very idyllic, but it is an edited life. And it's, I remember she gave an interview not too long ago, maybe last year, talking about, her experience giving birth and with her husband. And I think she mentioned how one of the times that she gave birth was the only time that she used an epidural. And it was the only reason that she was able to do that was because her husband wasn't present for that one birth. And essentially, if he had been present, that wouldn't have been allowed, which is crazy. So their surface argument is really that feminism has failed and it is making the lives of young women empty and meaningless and unhappy. What they're leaving out of this is the real issue, which is capitalism is failing young women. It's failing all of us. We don't have universal childcare. We have no paid maternity leave. We have sky-high cost of living. And these trad wife influencers, they're not solving the problem by telling women to abandon their careers and stay home. They are exploiting them. The fact is that being a stay-at-home mom is expensive and nearly impossible for most women. Women, particularly of color, earned less on average for doing the same job as men, and Arizona has no minimum standard for parental leave. Really what it is a romanticization of a time when only one income is needed. Where we're at right now is that 2 incomes are effectively, the same spending and buying power as 1 income was decades ago. And it's extremely ironic that this messaging is coming from women who have careers, are monetizing their social media following. The truth is most trad wives are either wealthy influencers or women with zero safety net. The irony being that these trad wife influencers are business women. They make money off their social media accounts. They do have careers, and they're getting on the internet and telling all of us to abandon our careers, stay at home, make babies, get married, and leave it all to your husband because everything will be fine, right? Right? And what they're showing you on their camera is not an accurate depiction. These women have money. They have housekeepers. They have nannies. They are not doing all of this themselves. They are content creators. They are selling you something that doesn't exist. And look, it's understandable. What mainstream feminism has told us is you can have it all. You can be a mom. You can have a career. And reality is that's exhausting. We do not have the systems in place to be able to support that because our government chooses to prioritize billionaires and corporations instead of truly making it the case that women can choose to stay home if they want to, or choose to work if they want to, or choose to do both if they want to. The trad wife pipeline is a rejection of you can have it all girl boss feminism. And look, I get it, but we're misplacing the blame here. The blame is on capitalism and on our structures and on politicians who, encourage women to fulfill that duty, but are completely unwilling to enact policies that would actually allow women to do so. The truth is, it's exhausting to be a worker and a mom in a system that is built for neither. This isn't a personal failure, it's a systemic one. The era that they are, riling up this nostalgia for, additionally, is one in which women had very few, they couldn't have a credit card. Abuse was much more common due to the fact that it was very difficult to get a divorce as a woman. If a woman did want to, leave her spouse and she didn't have, an account with money in it because he was the one who was working, that leaves women in a position of vulnerability. This was not the way that they're painting this era of trad wives in the 50s is a fantasy. It never existed then, and it doesn't exist now. I think a lot of not necessarily the blame, but if you think about the waves of feminism and the kind of different paths that white feminists versus black feminists and the things that they were advocating for and how those varied, mainstream white feminism, they advocated for the right to be in the workplace and access to the workplace. but not for things like the choice to work. And that's the same thing with how we talk about reproductive health care. You know, it's the choice, but what is actually choice, and who does it exist for? If you don't have childcare, if you can't afford childcare, then how are you going to go, utilize your right to be in the workspace? And that is what Black feminists at the time were fighting for. But unfortunately, white feminists chose to, as they do, focus on middle class white interests, and as a result, left behind most women. And those repercussions are true today, because if they had fought for policies and listened to Black women and fought for policies that supported all women, such as better school for all kids, clean air in our communities, and safe places for all people to raise a family if they choose to. And that's what I mean by real choice. Without economic and climate justice, choice is a myth. So one of the far-right groups that is really capitalizing off of the trad wife movement is Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA. If you didn't know, Charlie Kirk is based out of Arizona. His wife, Erica Kirk, is actually a former Miss Arizona. And they have been, dialing this down. It's very disturbing to see. Turning Point USA puts on these young women leadership summits every year, and they're exactly as I mentioned before. They're very aesthetic and girly. They don't seem to have an overt focus on politics and white nationalism. It's, like I said, the dating and health and that pipeline that draws people into their ideology. So it's dating and health and, organic and raw milk sprinkled in with, go to college to find a husband. This is a real thing that Charlie Kirk said on stage to hundreds of women at the last summit. Was, he was promoting, go to college, go find you a husband at college. That's the reason that you should go to college.
Your top priority is get married and have kids. Raise your hand. Okay. Interestingly, I think there is an argument to bring back the MRS degree. And no, seriously. And just be clear, that's why you're going to college, right? Don't lie to yourself. I'm studying sociology. No, you're not. We know why you're here. And that's okay, actually. And that's a really good reason to go to college, actually.
It's like you go for the how to make sourdough, how to, turn your dating life around, and sprinkled in there is anti-immigrant, anti-LGBTQ rhetoric baked in. They're redirecting the frustration that these young women feel at, the systemic inequalities that we're facing, and instead targeting them at, for example, trans women, telling them that they're threatening their femininity, and this is how you reclaim it, essentially. It's bullshit. There's also definitely, it's not that subtle. There's a white nationalist tone to it all. Not only do they want you to make more babies, but they want you to make more white babies. And the thing is that at the same time as, the right is promoting, make more babies, make more white babies, what they're doing at the same time is we're seeing reports from ICE concentration camps of women being forcibly sterilized. And the United States has a long history in this country of, at the same time, trying to get white women to have more babies, of sterilizing and taking away reproductive rights and access from women of color, from low-income women. And so this is really just the next iteration of this very long history in the United States. Ultimately, if the right really wants women to be supported and empowered in choosing to stay at home, choosing to raise a family, choosing to take on that role, there are things that they could do to promote that. But instead, they're using pro-life rhetoric while at the same time being anti-childcare and making cuts to Medicaid. It's pure hypocrisy. The big, beautiful spending bill that the Republicans just passed a couple of weeks ago makes serious cuts to Medicaid, which, if you don't know, 2 in 5 births in the U.S. are covered by Medicaid. Cutting it actively harms mothers and babies. Cuts to Medicaid can also lead to rural hospital closures, and women in rural areas already have worse health outcomes during pregnancy because we need more rural hospitals for all patients. And what they're doing is the opposite. It's not about protecting life. It's not about empowering women. It's about controlling them. The real problem is capitalism and white supremacy, and they are not doing anything to fix it. So, of course, I'm not saying that it is wrong to want to be a wife, be a mother, raise a family. But I think it is important to be aware of just the greater context with that, especially when consuming this content online. Like, I love a Nara Smith video. I think they're hilarious. But, our attention does mean something. Our attention is a commodity these days. So, unfortunately, we can't just mindlessly consume content and think that there's no greater cultural repercussions there. As Sayward Darby said, she was doing a research for her 2020 book called Sisters in Hate, American Women on the Front Lines of White Nationalism. She says, it is a slippery slope, and sometimes there's no slope at all, between I'm just a nice woman who wants to be a wife and mom and having a very white nationalist agenda. Whether they realize it or not, those are the waters they are swimming in. I think a big takeaway here is it is okay to love being a mom and also want and demand better systems. I think probably the best mothers are the ones out there demanding better systems for their children and the children around them. What we need is policy solutions, not patriarchal, nostalgic bullshit. Real empowerment means safety, choice, and care for all women. One example of the, be healthy to white nationalist pipeline is, where they're preying on negative associations that people have from our failing healthcare system, which is totally valid. Like the appetite for this health-minded content, I think, is a direct result of the fact that the U.S. healthcare system is absolutely broken. It connects them to the wrong villain. It's, big pharma is poisoning us, so we have to reject anything that, these mainstream doctors say and take supplements, rather than corporate greed prevents doctors from taking proper care of their patients. Thank you so much for joining us today for this episode. I hope you enjoyed this conversation and this little bit of a deeper dive into trad wives and the white nationalist pipeline. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And with all of this conversation about, motherhood and children and babies, I would be remiss if I did not mention all of the mothers and children in Palestine right now that are being starved and massacred as they wait in line to get food. The Israeli government has blocked foreign aid and aid groups from delivering food. These groups say we actually do have the supplies to be able to address the scale of this crisis, but the Israeli government is refusing to let that happen. It is the images and videos coming out of Gaza are just absolutely devastating, and this is all happening with our tax dollars and with basically our permission. So I just wanted to, say, as always, free Palestine. Continue to demand that the United States stops funding this genocide with our tax dollars. So on that note, thank you so much for joining us today. If you don't already, follow us at Nothing Left Unsaid pod on all social medias and tag a friend who you think might like this episode.